Well, welcome to the Institute of Managers and Leaders, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the IML ANZ Development Day. Today is a jam-packed day full of 6 webinars from our leading facilitators across all of our leadership programs, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome such a huge audience to today. I think we had 8,500 registrations to today across the 6 webinars. I can't wait to get started. So just a little bit about the Institute. My name firstly is Sam Bell. I'm the General Manager of Corporate Services here at the Institute, and I'll be the host for today. It's going to be a great day across all the sessions, and so I'll be hosting. The Institute began in 1941, so for 79 years we've been bringing managers and leaders together through our membership network, so connecting senior leaders to mentor, to nurture, and to share their insights to younger leaders, and also providing learning and development. So we've got leadership programs, diagnostic tools, and opportunities to learn and grow through the membership network and indeed our learning and development programs. A little bit about IML Development Day today. As I said, 6 great webinars, 6 leading facilitators from across the country presenting. This morning's session, the first cab off the rank, we thought we'd bring in Shannon Cooper, who's our top facilitator down in Melbourne. We're delighted to welcome Shannon with Painstorming in Uncertainty. And where we've discussed it with all facilitators is that we hope that as we come out of the COVID-19 experience and the chaos that sort of brought, that we're looking forward. So the facilitators very much are looking at getting back into the workforce and the challenges of how do we get back into our normal lives, considering all the challenges we've had. Shannon's going to look at 3 key things. He's going to look at 5 trends that are shaping customer behaviour in the current climate. He's going to look at how to equip your teams to apply a simple question-driven approach to quickly discover real pains, opportunities, and challenges that exist as a result of changes occurring beyond your control. And the third thing he's going to look at is how to use the insights to generate powerful new ideas that will align your team with decision-making and focus. So it will be a terrific webinar. One of the things that I should highlight is that we sent an action plan yesterday. So everyone should have an action plan. Now, the reason for this is that our learning and development and our programs are designed for action. They're not designed to tick boxes. They're designed to get outcomes for you and your organization. This content in particular that Shannon will be presenting is built around our Leadership Essentials program, and it's totally based on getting outcomes for you and providing you with actionable items that you can take back to the workplace to improve your performance and also improve the organization's ability to run productively. So Shannon, I'll hand it over to you. Welcome, and
thank you.
Forward to a great webinar.
Thank you, Sam, and a very warm good morning to everyone this morning. Welcome to our Development Day. We're enormously excited for what we have in store for you today, and I'm really excited too to be kicking us off this morning. 8:30 here where I am in Melbourne, so it's freezing cold. So I hope it's nice and warm where you are. You've got the heater on and you've got a cup of coffee and you're buckled in, not just for the next 45 or so minutes with myself, but for the rest of the A-grade facilitators and topics that we've got for you this morning. So a really, really warm welcome. Just as we kick off, I'd love it if you could, even into the chat box, if you could just write down what city, where do we find you this morning? We've got a stack of people on the call at the moment, approaching up to 1,000 folks at the moment. So it'd be great if you could just type into the chat box, what city do we find you this morning? Let's get a bit of a sense of where people are dialing in from this morning, and the range of locations where we find you. So just there's a chat box there as part of the go-to webinar platform, so you can just type in where you're from. That'd be awesome. We'll get a bit of a sense of where folks are. So just as you're doing that, I wanted to start off this morning by suggesting to you, or putting out there, that if I put my optimistic pants on, I think that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for us. I think that right now, despite the fact that we could be very much heading for a recession, and there's lots of lumps and bumps and a bit of a rocky road that we've still got to travel as leaders, as business owners, as managers, there is undoubtedly a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And what the world really needs right now, and what your business really needs right now, is meaningful solutions to the new problems and the new challenges that we are going to encounter as we forge forward towards that light at the end of the tunnel. And really my mission this morning is to kind of help you work out how to have those conversations about identifying what those opportunities look like, and more importantly, how to put those action plans into momentum and into place. One of the things I often like to do at the start of my webinars is just sort of share with you. I like to have my sessions a keyword. What's my keyword? What was the anchoring point for everything that I wanted to share with you this morning? And really, I suppose my anchoring word for today is about reinvent. It's about reinvention, and I'll tell you why this word is really important to me, and it's going to be really important as we move through this morning, because I think that the necessity of what we're going through at the moment in the business world, and as well as a community, as a society, means that we have to operate a little bit differently. And whenever we have to operate differently, it gives us an opportunity to understand what we can really do. And I think at the moment we're seeing lots of evidence of that. And as leaders, we need to sort of embrace this opportunity. And we need to not only deal with the here and the now, the challenges and problems and opportunities and I'd say very real issues that we've got in the here and now, but we also need to embrace the long view. We need to have an eye towards the horizon. And I think that within that view towards the long term, I think that we're going to see things play out over three sort of key timeframes, or three sub-horizons, if you like. I think what we're seeing at the moment is organisations, and you can probably relate to this within your own organisation, where what we're seeing at the moment is organisations rebooting, recalibrating to what's happening at the moment and trying to get a sense of normality around what's going on at the moment. Things are moving pretty quick, so this is hard, but organisations, we see it, in the retail sector, in the manufacturing sector, the banking, financial sector, the services sector, the education sector, organisations going through this reboot. And what's going to happen though is as they reboot and we sort of recalibrate to what happens, we're going to have a foundation whereby we can now sort of rebound, right? We've got that sense of normality again. We've got a level of consistency, some level of assurance about where we're at, so we can start to work out how we're going to rebound, how we're going to move forward into the future, how we're going to re-energize our growth. But I reckon there's also a third horizon, and this is why this is my keyword for this morning. And that is this reinvention, because as the name sort of suggests, or as that word suggests there, reinvention is going to be what is required here. Many of the trends, many of the changes, many of the things that were happening pre-COVID, funny term, isn't it, pre-COVID, have accelerated and have amplified during the last 8 to 12 weeks. And savvy organisations and savvy leaders aren't just focused on how to rebound, but they're conscious of not only the need to reinvent, but starting to talk about what that reinvention and starting to have those conversations inside the organisation and outside the organisation as well. So really today is as Sam said, we're really focused on helping our members, helping the organisations that we work with, towards not just dealing with the challenges and the issues in the here and the now, but also looking forward, not just with the reboot and the rebound, but towards the reinvention. And really my focus this morning is around that reinvention place and a little bit about the rebound as well. But nonetheless, these are the conversations that we need to be having as part of our reboot. So it kind of sits across both, but the focus on that long term. So, most of us will have seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most of you will be familiar with this, right? And it's been around for 70 years. It's a theory of motivation. It has its supporters and it has its detractors, but it's kind of this hierarchy of needs based on human motivation that says that those lower level things, physiological and safety needs within us humans, need to be satisfied and taken care of before we can reach higher levels of self-esteem and self-actualization. And I like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I think that we can draw some parallels between this and how organizations approach innovation, the cultures that they have towards innovation. And I think that this is important because it also gives us a bit of insight into how prepared their organizational cultures might be in terms of gearing up for that reinvention and that recalibration of what needs to happen. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's imagine that we've got some organizations out there that operate when it comes to innovation, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to being able to be agile enough to reinvent. There are some organizations out there that operate at this lower level, and I call it a facade, right? And this is where some organizations are responding at the moment to what's going on, and we've got leaders out there, we've got business owners out there, who are telling their people via Zoom meetings and everything else, we need to be more innovative, go and innovate, think outside the box, get your creative juices flowing, right? So they're out there making all of these proclamations, they're putting it in emails, right? But at the end of the day, nothing really happens. It's all talk, it's all bluster, but there's no real traction, there's no action. The word innovation or creativity or imagination, it's part of the words, it's part of the narration, it might be on posters, emails, mouse mats and mugs in the annual reports of the websites, but it's a facade. There's no systems, there's no processes, there's nothing there to support all of these words. Right. Some organizations, though, move beyond the facade and they move up to what we might call a fascination. And a fascination is where we move beyond the facade and we start to develop an understanding of the tools, skills, and mindsets that are needed to be more creative and to more innovative. Or in this case, the skills and tools that are going to be required to reinvent parts of our organization or entire components of our entire organization. So what happens here is that we understand not only why innovation and creativity is important, but we're also given the tools to know how to do it, right? But at the end of the day, again, nothing really happens. So you'll know if you're in this place, like if you have brainstorms in your organization, but nothing ever happens with the results. If you have hackathons or ideas contests or any of that type of stuff where we know how to do it and we know why we're doing it, but nothing happens, I would say that you're in that sort of fascination state. We understand the why and the how, but nothing really happens. When we can move beyond that, we get to what I call the focus stage. And the focus stage happens when we actually start building on those ideas. We take those ideas that have come from those brainstorms, the great ideas from the ideas contests, the hackathons, whatever it might be, and we focus on turning those ideas, building those ideas into real aspects of our business, return on investment generating ideas, value added parts of processes, systems, products, services within our business. And again, you'll know if you're at this particular culture at the moment where you're seeing exactly that, where ideas are starting to be turned into action, where there's systems, processes, and resources being given to people to actually turn these ideas into tangible results. When we move beyond that, though, and we take a little bit of a side turn here, but I think it still works, right? I go to fight. And this is where organizations start to defend. And the reason that I've got this here is what happens is once you've got a great idea and you implement a great idea, be it internally or as part of a more sort of organization, business model, strategic shift, maybe even at the disruption level, what happens now? You have to defend, you have to fight a little bit because the competitors catch up, right? Your competitors work out that you're doing something good that's having a bit of a result, so they'll do it. And whether it's in the tech, whether it's business process, whatever it might be, a product or a service, or even just a way that you redesign and reconfigure your workplace to add to a level of efficiency and competitive advantage, the competitors catch up. So you've got to sort of fight a little bit. You've got to defend to maintain that leadership position that you had. So I'll give you some quick examples so that you can relate this, right? So, organizations are in this place. It's often where we're extending our product range or improving our existing products and services. So that we're not actually developing anything new. We're just working out how to enhance and reshape our existing stuff, continuous improvement, that more incremental stuff. So, we see examples of this where, Uber going into the Uber Eats business, right? Delivering food. We see Netflix producing their own films and movies and stuff like that. That's an example of that defending their turf and fighting for their market leadership. But then the top, wrong way, Shannon, there we go. The top of our model, the utopia of our model, is what we might call fly. This elusive pinnacle whereby the whole organization is focused on this continuous and insatiable appetite for growth, for sustained growth, for a healthy return of value or creation of value for customers. And we are seen within our industry, or sometimes within the broader community, or even just as a leader within your own organization, as someone who is at the leading edge. Right? So this is the big, the high stakes, high reward game. And again, we see some examples of this where Amazon goes from essentially what was an online book retailer to a massive, the number one sort of cloud infrastructure provider as they are today. Apple, a computer company, inventing or developing the iPad. And creating a whole new market segment. So we see these stages. So what I'd love for you to do is think about this hierarchy at the moment and just type into the chat box, where is your organization currently at? Where do you see yourself? Are you at the facade stage where it's all talk? We talk a big game, but nothing happens. There's the fascination where we talk and we do a bit, but nothing real. Is there a focus where we're actually starting to do some real things? Or perhaps you're at the area where at the moment your challenge is going to be to defend and fortify your position, pre-COVID and certainly post-COVID, or are you part of that leading edge? And we're starting to get a few responses come through and a real mix. And not surprisingly, we're starting to see a few results come through where people are saying, the fascination and the facade stage, right? Those lower levels. And if you are at those lower levels, the question that I've got for all the leaders listening in today, one of the questions that I would have is that the level that you need to be able to rebound and reinvent post-COVID? And what are you doing and what can you do to equip your leaders, your managers, the people in your organization with the skills, tools, and mindsets to be able to move higher up that ladder? Because if you are down at the bottom, what we're going to see as this S-curve moves throughout COVID is that you're not going to go on that second S-curve. You run a very real risk of going down that red line and falling off the radar. And we're already seeing some very strong evidence of that, in multiple industries with multiple organizations. So the challenge for every single one of us listening in today, irrespective of your role, your status within the organization, is to think very carefully about where is your organization at, where are your people at, where are you at, and what do you need to do to move further up that line so that you can not just rebound, but reinvent and become successful the other side of everything that's sort of happening here, if there ever is going to be a new normal. Now, some of the challenges that we hear, organisations often say to us, and leaders say to us and me all the time, yeah, I get that, Shannon. We're down here and we need to move up, but it's not that simple, right? Particularly right now, leaders are telling us that they don't know where to start. They don't have the processes, the systems, the tools, and our customers, they're changing, and we don't even know how to respond right now. In the past, it's been all talk and there's a lot of negativity. How are we going to get that trust again? And we're going to have less resources now. We have less resources now. How is this going to work? There are people are under already so much pressure. So how are we going to inspire them to buy into some new ideas and implement those new ideas and do it in a sustained way? They're already maxed out, right? And ultimately, the big question is, how can we best support our leaders to adapt through the turn? And as Sam said, this is one of these very tools, the skills, these challenges are what we deal with as part of all of our development programs. And today I want to give you a bit of an insight into what some of those look like and how to use some of those tools from a tactical perspective. Just quickly, something else that to help you have those conversations and move higher up the ladder is I just very quickly want to share with you 3 resources that you should have on your bookshelf right now, and 3 resources that have influenced what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So the first one is what I call a classic book, and it's called Gamestorming. And Gamestorming is by Dave Gray, Sam Brown, and Justin McCanado. This is the big idea behind this book, and it's probably 15 or so years old now, but the big idea behind Gamestorming is that at work you can actually use games. We can use games, we can use canvases to break down communication barriers and have good conversations, generate new insights and strategies without losing a sense of structure and clarity in the organization. So Gamestorming is about how do we use games to have really great conversations and break down communication barriers. So that's a bit of a classic. A more contemporary book that has influenced what I'm going to be talking about today, and a second one that I'd encourage you to have on your bookshelf, is Business Model Innovation. And I'm sure many of you have heard of this, right? So Business Model Innovation says, yeah, well, building on the idea of Gamestorming, yeah, you can use games, templates, and canvases, but not only just to engage internal dialogue, you can actually use those things to understand your business model, right? How you create, capture, and deliver value. You can actually use them to think about your operating model, understand them, analyze them, and reinvent them. Right? But then building on that, I suppose the current book that has influenced what I'm going to talk about today is a book called This is Service Design Doing. And they say, yeah, look, absolutely, games, canvases, templates, a commonality of language. We can use all of that, and not only should we be designing business models, but we should be designing customer-centric business models. So each of these books, wonderful books to have in your resource artillery right now to help you through that path of reinvention, but really important to what I talk about today. Right? So Gamestorming is about guiding the organisational conversations that are needed to reinvent what's going on. Business model generation is about how to use tools and templates to have strategic conversations and how we might need to reinvent our whole business model. And service design doing is all about making sure that we use those tools and templates in the conversations that we have about our business model to make sure that it's there to serve our customers. So when it comes to reinvention, I think that these 3 books are really important texts to have, to reflect on, to guide those conversations, and everything I'm going to share with you today kind of leverages those things. So let's have a look. 3 big ideas that I want to share with you today, and Sam said 3 ideas, so I want to launch straight into those. So the first one is that I would challenge every one of you listening today to think about shifting your perspective. And here's what I mean by that. I think that as business, as leaders, as organizations, what you need to be thinking about is understanding that it's not all about you. It's not all about your organization. It's not all about your products and services. You know, and I dare say it's not all about your brand, right? It's about your customers. And I use the word customers here. And by the way, customers equals people, equals team members, equals community, equals users, equals shareholders. I want you to, if it's okay, just hold a very broad definition of the word customers this morning. So I use customers, but your customers might be your team. They might be your community. They might be your users, whatever that word means for you. But at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about them. You see, once upon a time, in a not too distant past, organizations were very organizational centric. And what I mean by that is that they developed all these plans. They sat around in boiler rooms and created these plans and these business models that were trying to work out what can we create to sell to our customers? And then how do we shove it down their throats? What's a way that we can position it so that they'll buy it, right? What relationship do we have? How do we get money out of our customers? Whereas for a long time, we have seen this trend towards more customer-centric organisations. And I think this is accelerated throughout the COVID-19 crisis, where we're seeing more customer-centric organisations emerge. Organisations that work more towards what we have on the right-hand side here, which is where organisations that are really saying, okay, well, what is it that our customers are trying to do anyway? And how do we help them? right? What are their aspirations? What are their broader goals, beyond what they do with our product or service, or how they integrate with us? And how do we best fit within their lives? What relationships do they want to have with us anyway? And what value are they truly willing to pay for? Right. Now you look at those questions, and as I said, you might think about, from a B2C or a B2B environment, or even if you're just an IT manager or a learning and development manager listening in today, these are really important questions for you to be thinking about within the stakeholders within your organization. Or I had someone the other day I was sharing this with, and unfortunately she lost her job, and she, on the back of this, thought, yeah, I've got to really think differently about how I write my resume, because I'm writing it for me at the moment. I need to be writing it for them. So here's another question for you. Where's your organization at the moment? Are you on the left-hand side? Are you on the right-hand side? And are you having the conversations around that shift between a more organization-centric and a customer-centric organization? And what conversations do you need to start having to make sure that shift is happening sooner rather than later? Because if you're on the left-hand side, you can do all the rebooting you like. You're going to find it very difficult to rebound, let alone to reinvent. Customers that reinvent quickly, more quickly and more successfully, will be operating in that customer-centric area. The second thing that I want to share with you today is about the importance of being empathetic. Right, so, and again, we're starting to see a few responses, so real mixed responses between customer-centric and organization-centric into the chat box. Thank you. Yeah, be empathetic. So it's all good and well to say, okay, well, let's be customer-centric. But the extension of that and the natural shift from that is that we need to be empathetic towards our customers. To be truly customer-centric, that means that we have to show a level of empathy. And to help you along that way, I thought I'd share with you very quickly 5 key trends that are happening across society at the moment that will help you be a little bit more empathetic towards your customers. So the first trend that I think we need to be empathetic towards is the virtual experience economy. And we're seeing this a lot, like zoos, art galleries, museums across the world are closed down right now. Concerts aren't happening, for example. So what we're seeing is that a lot of organizations and museums, and zoos and the like, are launching games and virtual discovery tours. For example, my daughter's at home at the moment, homeschooling, like many of you are this morning, no doubt. And over the last couple of weeks, and my daughter was fortunate enough. She participated in a game, and this game was a virtual tour of the Great Pyramids of Egypt. And the virtual tour was an immersive experience into the life in ancient Egypt that looked at the reign of Cleopatra and all of this stuff. It was like this virtual tour done online. She collected games, badges and tokens along the way, status accrual along the way. We're seeing the V8 supercars and motorsports, with their E-series and stuff like that. So we're starting to see a lot more of these organisations working out how to tap into the virtual experience economy. And I think that we're becoming comfortable with that as customers. And the challenge for us as leaders is to work out, well, how do we apply this? But the thing that I would say here is it's not about the tech. It's easy to get hung up on the tech and the VR stuff and all the rest of it. I don't necessarily think that it's about the tech. I think that the bigger challenge for all of us as business leaders on that path towards reinvention is to start thinking about how we can, what does the virtual experience look like? And how do we create a platform for that? Because sometimes, it's not about the tech. It's not about having all this fancy sort of VR stuff. Sometimes it can simply be, lessons on YouTube, for example, or someone with an iPhone. Like it just doesn't need to be complicated. But I think we are seeing more people willing to embrace that virtual experience, even virtual shopping experiences at the moment, where you can book a time and someone takes you into the shop and guides you around. That's a pretty low-tech, lo-fi example of the virtual experience economy. So be empathetic towards that, lean in towards that. The customers are going to have some pains and some desires around that. The second one is ambient wellness. So at the moment, as I said there, we're going to have all these people reaching for their hand sanitizer, right, as they go about their daily lives. And that'll probably continue, but we'll go back to some old habits soon enough. But I think one of the challenges for us is to work out, what are you doing within your workplaces? What are you doing for your customers to make sure that they feel safe and well when they come into your workplace, when they come into your store, when they're working in those or traversing through those physical spaces. Customers are going to want to feel well. They want to know that they're cared for and that they're going to be safe. Right, so I said at the moment, we've got most retail stores that I know of, are taking temperature checks, or they're providing hand sanitizer on the way in. But what else can you do? There's a great article in the Melbourne Press today. I'm sure it's probably in other aspects of the 9 News areas as well, but in the Herald Sun, where it talks about some local organisations that are doing some great examples of this through contactless timekeeping measures. They've got checklists all the way through to using wearables to make sure that their staff are well looked after. So I think that's something else. What does your physical environment look like? Because expectations are going to rise here before we see a return to work, both customer expectations and employee expectations. Another trend to be empathetic around is this idea of AI, automated intelligence commerce, and this has been bubbling away for quite a while. But we're now starting to see a lot more organisations rely on robots and chatbots to do the things that humans used to do. Let the humans, as our workplaces strip down, and there's a lot of that going on at the moment, but the workload might remain the same and the challenges remain the same. So we're working out, okay, how do we get humans to do what humans do best, and how can we take parts of the customer journey and get robots to do that? So this example here in this picture, this is from Domino's. They've got their little vehicle. It's called Neuro, which is a remote control delivery vehicle. I think it was in Houston in Texas. They run the pilot. They've rolled it out across the states a little bit more broadly now, and it is absolutely just remote control, automatic delivery to your front door, and you go in, get your pizza, get your lemonade, whatever it is, and away you go. So yeah, what's happening within your orbit? And again, mother is the necessity of invention, as they say. So what we're seeing at the moment is where customers and employers are actually welcoming these things, because there's a little bit more tolerance and a little bit more desire and willingness to embrace things that in the past we might have been a little bit lower, or the speed towards acceptance was a little bit slower. So, for you to think about this within the context of your organisation, think about what parts of your customer journey, internal customers, external customers, what parts might be automated, what parts of your help desk might be automated, what parts of the learning and development journey might be able to be automated, what parts of the product or service delivery in a B2C environment might be able to be automated, and how can you get the humans, the people, to do what they do best. Again, another great example of that in the paper this morning about Ferguson Player, a local bakehouse here in Melbourne, who have made some significant shifts in the way that they use technology, where they used to use humans. So again, some example of that just in this morning's press. Another example is assisted development. And again, we're seeing lots of examples of this where people are stuck at home, they're being prompted or forced to learn some new skills. So, and again, the example that I've got here in this picture is from a restaurant here in Melbourne, Atlas Dining, and they have launched meal packs, and they send the meal packs out to you, and you jump online and you watch the head chef here. This is him, Charlie Carrington, and he tells you how to prepare the meal kits so that you can cook an Atlas Dining 5-star meal at home. And believe it or not, in the middle of the crisis, while all restaurants were closing down across the country, Atlas Dining has had a series of back-to-back record days. Right, so here's a restaurant in the bricks and mortar sense, all doom and gloom in the restaurant cycle. And this restaurant has had its back-to-back record days over the last couple of weeks. Here's a business that is growing and thriving simply because they've taken a level of customer empathy and tapped into it. So for you, think about it. What are you doing? How can you help your customers become more independent, better versions of themselves, right? A bit of that Maslow hierarchy of needs. And as people emerge from the crisis, they're probably going to be willing to do things that you used to do for them. They're probably willing to have a crack themselves. So how can you help them do that? And then the last of the 5 trends is this idea of burnout. We're already starting to see a lot of stress, a lot of pressure within our people, within our customers. And I think if we're to be empathetic towards them, we understand that that's what they're going through. So the challenge for us as businesses and business leaders is to work out, well, how do we deal with that? How do we work with that? How do we support them through that? So wellness programs have been in lots of organisations, but I think they're going to have a higher level of importance, and they're going to need to be a lot more robust and a lot more thorough than what they have been in the past. So the example that I put here is from Unity Collective. Now, Unity Collective, an Australian organisation that has developed. It was a group of people, organisations in the promotional, promotional pens, promotional materials, promotional products game. And there, of course, their market died when all the conferences and stuff died and everything else. So they got together and they created these wellness packs where they put together a range of different products. I think they've got 4 at the moment. You can go to their website and you can select these wellness packs and you can send them directly to your customers. You can send them directly to your staff. You can have them branded up with your own stuff. So this is a good example of empathizing with our customers, knowing what they're going through and responding and trying to help them. Just a quick insight, and again, I'll send you a trend report after today that has all of these. So start to think about these trends. Which ones of these do you need to be really empathetic about? Which ones of these are already having an impact on your customers, internal and external, and what are you doing about it? And when it comes to bringing all of these trends together and having a real deep conversation about where all these things convalesce and where they fit and where the opportunities might sit, and there's others as well, mind you, this is where we can use things like our empathy map. Now, some of you will have seen the empathy map before. In the playbook that we've either sent you or we'll send you after today, there is this template there for you. It's available for download fairly readily as well. And an empathy map, if you haven't seen it, is a way of really thinking about not only that shift from organisation-centric to customer-centric, but trying to make sense of all of these trends, because I've given you 5, there's a stack more that are out there as well. So how do we make sense of them and how do we identify the opportunities for us? And a customer empathy map is a really useful way to do it. And the way that this works is that pretty simple. It's you get some folks together and you just do a brainstorm. Do a brainstorm of all the different customers that you serve, internal customers, external customers, broader community-based customers that you might serve, and just do a brainstorm of them all. And then think about some demographic details for that particular customer group. So, it might be their income, marital status, education, experience, whatever it might be, just some basic demographic details, and give them a name. Give him or her a name. Is it Mary? Is it Jane? Is it John? Is it Frank? Just give them a name so they become real. And then you just go through each one of the 6 questions on the empathy map. And you ask these questions, so what is it that he or she is feeling at the moment? What really matters to them? What really counts? What are they preoccupied about? What are their worries? What are their aspirations? And what do they see? What do they see in there? Probably most of us, it's the 4 walls of our house, right? So that's what we're seeing at the moment, right? What are we looking at? What other market offers are out there? If I jump online and I'm Googling something to buy a particular product, what do I see you offer versus the competitors offering? What do I see my friends doing? What do I see my colleagues at work doing? What's going on there? What is it that I say and I do? What's my attitude? What's my language? What words am I using to describe what's actually happening here? What's my appearance look like? What's my behavior towards others look like? What's actually going on at the moment? What are you noticing your staff and your customers doing? And then the other one is what are they hearing? Who are the influencers that they listen to at the moment, and what are they saying? What new services do they tap into? What things are they buying into? And then down the bottom, what are their pains? What are their worries? What are their concerns? What is it, their frustrations? What are the obstacles that are getting in the way that are stopping them doing from what they want to do? And what are their gains? What are their needs, wants, and measures of success? And again, if we use this, for example, we see examples of where organizations, massive organizations now have taken advantage of this, who are really empathizing with their customers. And there's a stack of them. Airbnb, for example, it came on the back of the GFC, where people have lost their jobs, people are at risk of losing their homes. They were worried about all of these things. They were looking at ways of earning extra cash. Renting out the spare bedroom is a great way to earn some extra cash and help pay off that mortgage. Airbnb was built on the back of a deep level of customer empathy, community empathy on the back of the GFC. Uber, the same. People have lost their jobs, they're at risk of losing stuff, looking for some extra cash, got a car, same thing. Or Alibaba, the Chinese e-commerce site, was on the back of the SARS epidemic. So there's no doubt in my mind that we are going to see massive organisations that we talk about in the next 3, 4, 5 years, perhaps even sooner, that came off the back of a deep sense of customer empathy throughout SARS. But you can't just ask your customers what they want, right? That doesn't work. You've got to have a deeper relationship with them. I think Henry Ford once said if he'd asked his customers what they want, they would have said a faster horse, right? So you've got to watch their behaviour. You've got to have it's a deep level of empathy, and that only happens if you go back to that first big idea. You've got to shift your perspective. You've got to become less organisation-centric. You've got to become more people-centric, customer-centric, so that you understand the impact of these trends and can develop that deep empathy map. And then the third big idea that I want to share for you before we open up for a little bit of quick Q&A before our next speaker in our development day jumps on is this idea of painstorming. And this is where it all comes to the head. Now, you might be wondering, you go, well, Shannon, you've been talking for all this time, and it's only now that we're getting to the thing that's on the title of your webinar. What's going on here? Well, here's what I think, all right? Problems before solutions. Some of you are looking at, if you know who this person is, you can type it into the chat box. Some of you are looking at this going, who the devil is this guy? You're starting to get a few responses now. Of course, if you're a child of the 80s, you'll know that this is, some of you go, kind of looks like that guy on How I Met Your Mother. But, and you'd be right. But before he was that, he was a child genius doctor. So this is Doogie Howser, right? And the reason I put that up is because I think that one of the things at the moment, organisations are trying to, as they try to accelerate towards that reinvention or even that sort of rebound and reinvention, there is a temptation just to go to solutions. What do we need to do to change with our business model? What do we need to adapt? What do we need to do? So there's all this energy being spent, and I think it's wasted energy, because what they're actually doing is prescribing the prescription or taking the medicine without really understanding what the problem is. And so hopefully you can see that the first two steps around shifting your perspective and developing a deep sense of customer empathy, using the trends that are happening, developing empathy maps, it helps you understand deeply the situation that you're dealing with, so we're in a better place to prescribe the solution or the medicine, right? So if you don't do that and you just do them, you're going to waste time, you're going to waste resources, and we don't have a lot of resources right now to be wasting. So painstorming. So, this is where this idea of painstorming comes from. It allows us to bring the ideas, the techniques, the conversations, the outputs of everything that we've done in those previous two phases into what we call the Painstorming Template. And again, we'll send you a copy of this, all the templates that I've shared with you today. You'll get a copy of that in the playbook that we give you. So Painstorming is PAIN is an acronym that is used. And let me talk you through how to use this template. So the first one, P stands for persona, which is who is the customer? Who's that person, that Frank, that Mary, that John, that Jane, whoever it was at the middle of your empathy map, you put their name up the top. And then the A stands for activities. And then we go, okay, what is it they actually do? And why do they do what they do? And to what ends? So we use the empathy map to go, okay, well, when they're interacting with our products or services, or when they come to work with us and they're engaging with other parts of the organization, or they're engaging with our IT platform or our learning and development platform or our finance systems, whatever it might be for you. So let's have a look at the process that they use. What are the activities that they do? Now, again, hopefully the pennies just dropped for you, because what that looks like now looks very different to what it looked like 6 to 8 weeks ago or 12 weeks ago, right? Because they're at home, they've got kids, they're dialing in with our crappy NBN or whatever it might be. So these activities are going to look very different now and going to look very different probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks, right? And then what processes, tools, or activities have they invented to work around the things that need to get done? And we're seeing all kinds of great examples, from home office hacks through to people working late at night, through to people just working out the IT system's clunky. I don't know how it works, so I've just worked out a shortcut. Or I don't know how to access this, or this form's junk, so I've just worked out how to work around. So there's all these workarounds that both your customers are doing at the moment, and internally, externally at the moment, and you want to understand what those are. So if you've got that customer empathy map, you're having those conversations, making those observations, we can get some insights into what are they doing? What are the things that they are doing? What are they worried about when it comes to activity one? What is it that they're doing to work around that? What are their gains? What do they want to get out of a customer? What activity want? What does success look like? And then we have needs, and needs is what are I need more coffee, huh? What are the specific pain points that the customers face? What's actually going on, and how might we alleviate those things? How do we have a relationship with the customer that works with them to alleviate those pain points, to make it easy for them? And what we're seeing at the moment is successful organizations, those that will move very quickly through this phase of reboot to rebound to reinvent. They will be in touch with this. The organizations that are successful, if we were to have this conversation in 6 months, 12 months, perhaps even 3 months time, those organizations that are successful, you'll be able to map what they've done against a template like this. I absolutely guarantee it. Look, like I said, look at Uber, look at what was that, Airbnb. Have a look at Alibaba. Those 3 examples that I shared with you yesterday, they were developed on the back of understanding who their customer is, what is it that they're actually doing, what are their needs, what are the insights that we gained, what are their needs, let's develop a business model to deal with that, products and services. Yeah. So these 3 big ideas that I've shared with you today, and it is just a bit of a snapshot in an hour, is these ideas of shifting your conversation, the tools, the techniques, the mindsets and the skills that are needed to have to do that, developing deep customer empathy, and finally bringing that all together in a way that makes these things tangible, to give us a bit of a lift off towards that, implementing these ideas is about these are ideas that can help you move further up this hierarchy of innovation. These are ideas that can help you move just beyond the facade into the fascination phase, and combined with a deeper level of understanding and again skills and tools and mindset, you can move just beyond the fascination into the focus, fight and hopefully fly. And these are skills and tools that we share in our leadership programs, and we equip you or leaders within your organization in how to do it back in their workplace. How to not just understand why and how, but how to actually do it, how to have those conversations. So these are the 3 big ideas that I wanted to share with you this morning. Now we have prepared for you a playbook. I'm not sure whether it was sent to you or not, but if it hasn't, you can email us programs at managers and leaders, and we'll send you a copy. It has the templates in it and a few additional bits and pieces as well that kind of map out the whole process. It gives you some additional tools to really power up what we've spoken about today in a really micro level. But essentially, as I said, just take away from today those 3 big ideas. What conversations are you having with your people, your customers, to ensure that you are customer-centric to help with the rebound and the reinvention of your organization? What conversations are you having? What conversations do you need to have? Secondly, what trends are happening across your industry right now? And how can you use them to develop that deeper sense of customer empathy? What's going on? Internal or external, what trends are happening, and how do you use those to develop that sense of customer empathy? And finally, the painstorming, which is how do you combine the conversations and trends and those painstorming questions to reinvent your team, to reinvent your organization, or perhaps even reinvent your whole industry. So I'm bang on time. Look at that. That's a wrap from me. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for coming along. And hopefully you're going to stay buckled in for the remainder of our speakers today. So we've got 5 more speakers throughout the day. And I'm sure that they're going to be, again, give you a hell of a lot of value, some really good things to be thinking about right now for yourself and for the people that you look after. So thank you. Sam, I'll go back to you. I don't know whether we've got any questions coming through, but we've got a couple of minutes, I think, for some Q&A before we have to go to the next speaker. I'm not sure how long, but I'll hand back to you.
Shannon Cooper, well done. Terrific webinar and very insightful. Actually made me reflect on a couple of things that you've certainly had to adjust with through this period where, and as Shannon said, please send through some questions because we've got a couple of minutes for questions. But just in the meantime, some of the things that we were reflecting on is how we've adapted the sort of training and the learning and development processes of IML and the work that you do for us in that capacity, in moving from a face-to-face model where you're coaching people face-to-face, you're developing people face-to-face, to that virtual space. And the fact that I think before we came on, you said, I feel like I'm in a studio because I've had to, all of my work is rather than being face-to-face with development program participants, it's actually doing it virtually. But the feedback has been similar to what we've had across the chat box today, which has been extraordinary. So you've had to adapt to it as well,
isn't it? Just reflecting on that, I think that's the challenge. The challenge, like you talk about the virtual experience, and the challenge shouldn't be how do we just deliver in the virtual space. It's how do we make our virtual experience just as awesome as the face-to-face experience? How do we get our customers to advocate and be just as excited about what they experience in the virtual space as they do in the face-to-face space? And if you can have that conversation with your people, then you're well on the way towards reinvention. If you're just saying, oh, look, virtual, we just need to do this for a short period of time, or it's a bit of an adjunct to our business, you're going to miss the opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely right. And look, the feedback from today has been nothing short of what we've received from your virtual delivery of the development programs. A quick question, Shannon, on what are the principal skills needed to adapt with the new normal based on your deep empathy model? What are the principal skills needed to adapt?
So it sounds cliche to say, but empathy. But I think there are skills around observation and noticing. It sounds weird to say, but a lot of us just go in and we do what we need to do without actually noticing or observing the way that our customers interact. And as I said before, if you're an IT manager, but you've never really noticed, never really observed, never really sat down to someone who has to use your IT systems, then that's a skill that you need to develop. But linked in with that is questioning skills. What are great questions to ask, right? If I am going to sit down with the customer, how do I ask those questions? How do I collect those observations? So observation skills, listening skills, questioning skills are really important skills to have because they sort of truncate off the back of empathy. I also think the ability to be inquisitive, curiosity. Again, curiosity is a skill that can be taught. I think a mindset of curiosity is something else that is really important right now. Get deeply curious about what's going on. So they kind of sit together, but they're some of the main ones that kind of are really important. There's some other ones around influence. There's some around how do I share an idea in a compelling way. I think storytelling skills are really important right now for testing ideas. So yeah, there's a broad range of skills, but there's some of the immediate ones that come to mind.
Here's a great question, Shannon. How do you motivate the senior management? So I'm assuming this person's a middle manager or a junior manager. How do you motivate the senior management in your organisation to move from process to implement?
Yeah, Sam, we had a very similar question from one of our clients that we're now working with very recently, where she said, look, we need to get senior management buy-in on this. How do we do it? So we are actually working at the moment around things like idea sharing, again, storytelling skills. How do we tell a compelling story to the leaders above us to get their buy-in? So there's some storytelling skills. There's some business case. How do I develop a business case for my ideas? And how do I pitch that business case? So there's a broad range of things that are needed. It can't just be, hey, I've got a good idea, give me some cash, give me some resources. There's a level of savvy that is required there. So if for the person who answered the question, some things I would say is work out, storytelling and influential storytelling is something that I would investigate, as well as how to pitch an idea. We do it in our work. There's a range of different books. There's a guy called Oren Klaff, K-L-A-F-F, Oren Klaff. Look him up. He's got some great, for that person who answered that question, a great head start into how to develop those skills in terms of higher level influence.
As a business owner, should my needs focus on team members' needs first and then customer?
Really great question, and it's a little bit of chicken and egg. Look, I would say, where is the greatest need right now? Where is the greatest sort of opportunity? And if your people are really struggling right now, then that's where your focus needs to be. If your people are really detached, really anxious, then that's where you need to focus, because there's no point focusing on your external customers if the internal systems, the internal people aren't ready to provide that level of service or support or that level of empathy to your external customers. So I think it's a bit of a, it's not a cookie cutter answer. Some people disagree with me on that, but that's the view that I take. On the flip side, if your people are pretty energized, your people are already up that higher level of hierarchy, up towards the, beyond that fascination stage, then I'd say go towards the external customers first. Don't dilly-dally, get stuck in there. But if you're at those lower order, it might be worthwhile investing a little bit more in that skill and knowledge internally before we go externally. But you've got to hasten around this. Don't let things escape from you.
Shannon, last question, and then I will read a comment, which is very, very kind on the presentation. But how do you recognise when an organisation's heading to the plateau? On the curve that you show. How do you recognise when they're heading to that plateau with sufficient time to do something about it?
Oh, I wish I knew the answer to that beautifully. I'd be rich. Lots of people think they know, but the reality is that in different industries and different organisations do it differently. Most organisations don't realise until they're down the other side, of course. But look, Sam, the real answer is depends on your business metrics. It depends what you're measuring. And again, that's why noticing is really important. We can't bury our head in the sand. So for some organisations, it's about revenue growth. Some organisations, it's about market share. Some organisations use, customer satisfaction or staff engagement. So there's a range of different metrics, and it depends what sector you're in. Depends what your industry S-curve looks like to give you that insight. But I think that the answer to that question is really what metrics are your organisation using, and how can you use those metrics intelligently and insightfully to work out where you're at that S-curve. So that you start to recognise when you're down the other side. We do a lot of work with a lot of organisations, particularly in our Accelerate program as well, around these metrics and understanding the bigger picture, understanding where they fit within that S-curve. So yeah, it's one of the skills that we teach in our programs.
Thank you very much, Shannon. We could probably do questions today, but we've got another 5 presenters. But thank you.
That's right.
You mentioned. Yeah, well, you mentioned the playbook a couple of times. The good news is that we're actually sending that out to everyone.
Perfect.
So we'll be sending the resources. So everyone will receive the resources and everyone will receive the slides from Shannon's presentation today. If you would like to hear more from Shannon or more from IML or more experience around membership or learning and development, please contact us info@managersandleaders.com.au. or our phone number 1300 661 061. And Shannon, no doubt you'll be going on your social media and hashtagging IML Development Day. And
absolutely.
But thank you very much for everyone participating. As I said, we've got 8,500 registrations for today. It's a huge day. We've got 5 more presenters, but I think Shannon has provided an excellent start to the day. If I can say one thing, Shannon, we had a comment here from Jamal. Thank you, Shannon. Great insights. I'm more excited about the future for myself and my organisation, and we are already reinventing our customer experience and operations.
Oh, so Jamal, wonderful. Thank you. And those of you listening, through IML, same with all the presenters today, if you want to have a conversation with me, we're making those opportunities available. So if you want to have a chat with me about how some of these things might fit within your organisation and how IML might be able to partner, use those details on the slide here, and I'm more than happy to have some conversations with you about how some of this stuff might work in your organisation and how at IML we can partner you towards that reinvention.
Fantastic, Shannon. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone. We'll see you in 15 minutes. We've got 9:45 as the second session, so we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Sam.